Chapter 32. A New Hope, Nier. I and the androids soon made our way into the targeted building, and it was honestly only a shell of what it was supposed to be, as it was once obviously a huge office building tower, and by a shell, I meant exactly that, as the building was completely hollowed out and we could see the sky from the probably third-level basement we climbed down into, with the skylight at a minimum 40 floors above us. But as I looked down, I could only pop an eyebrow up in confusion, seeing the machine lifeforms pretending to hump one another in a parody of trying to perform intercourse. And what the fuck are they doing? I wondered aloud while thinking whether this building was the server hub for an adult website back before the war and the machines got corrupted by the data within. Because by all rights any virus you get from porn is basically an STD in any case. 6E shifted around and I could tell she was remembering our times of having fun in that manner. Well, let's deal with all these machines, even though I feel like a cheap horror movie villain for doing this when they are busy. I then started it off by jumping down, and as I impacted the ground, I used my earth magic to send a wave of boulders from the broken ground beneath all the concrete the machines dug up for whatever reason, towards the machines. My android, seeing the dust settle for me throwing all the machines apart and breaking their coupling, fell upon the remains that stood back up with an unmatched ferocity as their whirling great swords made quick work of the low-quality potato-shaped machine lifeforms. And finally, as the last one fell and I started paying more attention to the clearing we were in, and I noticed literally dozens of android bodies littering the ground. These are all resistance android models, right? I asked, after noticing how they were all not wearing the Yoarha uniforms nor were the weapons around their bodies Yoarha style either, as they were using large guns for the most part. Yes, Jake, they all identify as missing in action androids that weren't able to link back up to any servers to be inserted into a new body. I frowned and nodded, and then a loud clattering noise ensued with a literal tide of more potato-shaped machine lifeforms started building a bridge in the skylight, and as much as I wanted to simply shoot the weird shape forming, I followed the actions of my androids and the pods surrounding me and waited to see what was going to happen. Finally, they formed a series of ropes connecting to the walls, and in the middle of the formation was a large glowing ball. I was starting to get the vibe that it was going to explode, so I summoned my guardian in front of myself to absorb the initial impact should such a thing happen. But I was wrong, as the ball seemed to split open and a weird clear lubricant splattered out onto the ground and was followed by a humanoid form likewise hitting the ground. The hell is that? I asked incredulously as the androgynous form lacking any sexual organs stood up. That's a machine. 9S called out, and 6E and 2B didn't waste any time after hearing such news from the scanner unit and then dashed at the staggered humanoid machine lifeform. As they slashed into the machine it cried out loudly, which sent a sonic blast knocking 6E back and into one of the concrete walls, stunning her. Swords dodge. Projectiles deflect. It muttered as I switched between sending bolts of lightning at it and making large earthen hands smash it into the ground and throw it aside as it grew both faster and stronger and its combat instincts matured. I could feel my purple, dimensional mana rolling around within me as a sphere formed around the being, and all our attacks shattered upon it or simply bounced off in the case of the more powerful lasers being sent by our pods. Get back! I yelled, and the androids instantly followed my order and crowded around me as I raised a layer of the earth around us with a loud thud. The earth sphere I wrapped around us was battered by a wave of the masso magic people use. I violently threw the sphere of earth and hit the hastily thrown up barrier the machine brought up, and as the dust settled around it, I ran around it by coating myself in wind to move faster, and just as my androids ran back into the fight. I knew this thing was going to grow into a catastrophe in the making, with how only scout models being able to tell it was machine simply by sight, and then it showed its new offensive capabilities as we settled into a grove of it teleporting around and then shooting massive waves of masso magic at us, not to mention how it seemed to have copied our pod's charged beams, which would carve furrows into the concrete as the continuous beam of lasers attempted to track us as we frantically dodged. But finally, things managed to look up as I was able to blindside the machine by ramming my Geto Chidori straight through the machine's chest as it teleported around, and I started to notice a bit of a pattern. I did it by coating my fist in lightning and making a sort of solid lightning blade protrude a bit in front of my fist, and I had no shame in admitting I spent entirely too many nights trying to recreate this. Then my androids expertly followed my blow with 2B and 9S stabbing through the chest at different angles, while 6E simply took the head off the machine, leaving the long silver-haired machine's head to hit the ground before we all ripped our weapons out of the machine as it slumped to the ground. Is it dead? 9S asked rhetorically and was so close to just cuffing her upside the head for taunting Murphy like that when light shot out of the wounds of the machine and a copy quickly formed and stood up instantly to shoot a powerful sonic attack straight at me as it recognized me as the greatest threat. Even as I instantly summoned my guardian to take the brunt of the blow, just like the last time I attempted to use the guardian to block a powerful blow, the stand light was smashed into me, and although it was incapable of hurting me, the concrete wall I slammed into from the force of his collision said otherwise as my head was ringing at the impact. "This is Commander White, and I order you to grab Jake and retreat immediately." I heard the commander's voice foggily as my vision swam, and I knew I had a concussion or something possibly worse as I felt a bit of blood trail down my face. E6 was at my side in a flash, and before I could say anything she lifted me in her arms to cradle my head as she saw the blood trailing down my face and was clearly scared of shaking me unnecessarily. But when you're jumping between floors of a collapsing building you can't really avoid it, and just as we went into a dark tunnel, I lost consciousness.